y'all, this is Halloween, and if you love haunted history and cemeteries as much as I do, you may want to subscribe because I'm going to be taking you somewhere new every week. In today's episode, we'll be going to Port Richey and visiting two cemeteries, one of which is the West Elfers Cemetery, established in 1877, and the other being a very unique cemetery. This is the Heartwood Preserve Cemetery, and we're going there today because a friend of mine that I grew up with in school, his brother and my brother were the same age, and they went to school together and hung out around the neighborhood, and I knew him very well as well, and me and Daniel grew up together, so we were the same age. So I'm going to be going out there to visit him, but also showing you the cemetery because it sounds very intriguing. Enjoy. We're here at West Elfers Cemetery in Port Richey, established in 1877. Let's go in and see what we can see. This one's just a little fella. It's even smaller than the East Elfers Cemetery. But let's read about it. As part of the Bailey settlement, a congregation of Methodists and Baptists established a Union Church and cemetery on this site in 1876. In March 1877, the church conducted the first burial with the interment of Peter K. Bailey, pioneer settler and Seminole Indian War veteran. When a fire destroyed the church in 1885, the Methodists established their own church and a cemetery, now known as the East Elfers Cemetery, in 1891. The Baptists relocated to become the Enclote Missionary Baptist Church. In the late 1830s, Michael Milbauer acquired a tax deed for the greater part of the cemetery property. The Milbauer family then established the cemetery as a community burial place, giving burial plots to the underprivileged. After surveying the property, Michael Milbauer deeded a portion to the Catholic Diocese of St. Augustine in 1955, who in turn deeded it to the Diocese of St. Petersburg in 1983. The Milbauers retained part of the cemetery for a family plot. After Michael's son, Richard, died in 1981, the Milbauer portion of the cemetery was deeded equally to the University of Florida Foundation and St. Leo College, who both deeded their portions to Pasco County in 1987. Among those buried in the West Elfers Cemetery are former public officials, ministers, and veterans of 7 U.S. wars. Sweet. So when we were at East Elfers Cemetery, we learned a little bit about the Baileys, who were pioneers of the Port Richey area. And that sign was saying that some of them are buried here as well. That's kind of cool. This is a very small cemetery. A lot smaller than the East Elfers Cemetery, but still very cool. Here we have a lot of Baileys here. John Samuel Bailey, and Susan P. Bailey, Wallace K. and Grace B. Bailey, and there's other ones over here. Let's see, this one is covered up. Sue Michael Bailey. I've never heard Michael as a middle name for a female. That's interesting. Albert David and Leola. John M. Bailey. Sarah Bailey. This is a big family here in Port Richey, the Bailey family. There are a couple of roads named after them, so a lot of Johns in this family. John B. Bailey and Audrey E. Bailey. So that must be a family name. Very cool. So if your name is Bailey spelled that way, B-A-I-L-L-I-E, you may have some history here in Port Richey. I personally had never heard that before this as a last name spelled that way. They have some roots here in New Port Richey, and it'd be worth looking into if that's your last name. Here is P.K. Bailey, the one that was referenced on the historic sign at the front of the cemetery. This is the oldest headstone in the cemetery. He passed March of 1877 and was the first internment here in the cemetery. So that's pretty cool. And his headstone is still really in great shape. He passed age 77 years. Yeah, so, and here is a Burton B. Bailey. 1843 to 1899. Wow. Thank you for your service. I love the name Burton. That is so awesome. Oh, here, look at these. Remember when we were talking about, was it at East Elfers? So one of the cemeteries we did recently when we were talking about these headstones, in which the family kind of just puts a layer of concrete over where the original wording was, and they just kind of etch in stone. It's a good effort because the words from the original stone had worn off, but it doesn't usually last. So they've done this here with these stones. This is the Whidden family. I tell you, the mosquitoes are out and vicious today. Hope it's not any of those special kind. Whew. And of all days to wear a skirt. There are a lot of veterans in this cemetery. Here's another one, Joseph H. Smith, 1848 to 1924. We have a Pinder family here, Pinder, and right up here, the Brown family. Isn't that a beautiful headstone? It's cracked right through the center, but the color is really pretty. Here are some older headstones that really caught my eye here in the middle of the cemetery. This one is a Game G. Sheffield. G-A-I-M, Game. That's an interesting name. Passed in 1898. A Margaret Sheffield. Passed in 1900, turn of the century. We've got a J.A. Sheffield. Passed in 1915. And 1928, M.D. Sheffield. And there's a Sheffield over here too. So if your name is Sheffield, your family might have some history here. These are some older headstones that are in very great shape as well. Just a tip, if you come out here in the summertime, wear some mosquito spray. They got me in the finger now. Ugh. I hate when they get you in the finger. It's a bad spot to have an itch. Yeah, look at this. Just a real small cemetery. But it's very well kept, you know. There's not a lot of trash here or anything. The grass is cut, not a lot of weeds. And we lucked out with a little bit of an overcast day here. So it's not too hot, but on a really hot day, you might want to, you know, dress accordingly because there's not a whole lot of shade in the cemetery. If I had to guess to the amount of burials in here, I'd probably say about 200 marked burials in this particular cemetery. So not real big at all. Look at this. This is really interesting. It's like just a big piece of rock there. I wonder if this was a baby. Because there's like a little Tonka truck. It's made out of metal though. That's really different. There are also a lot of smiths buried here. I've seen a lot of smiths. There's one over here that's pretty old, it looks like. Let's see. Oh, not that old. Look at that headstone. It's just etched, hand etched, looks like. 1901 to 1995. There's a Mary C. Smith, a Leo Smith, Alberta Lee Smith, and here are the Millbowers, which were also mentioned on the historic sign at the front of the cemetery. Another pioneer family of the new Port Richey area. You can do this whole cemetery in about half an hour, so I'm going to take a few more photos and we'll head out. Here's another unique last name, Kitchens. This is the Kitchens family. We've got some more war veterans here. World War II. Oh, this is a baby. Pretty much. 1952 to 1956. It says a fairer bud of promise never bloomed. You know, we take for granted sometimes when family members, when they pass young, but they've lived pretty much a life. My sister just passed at 47, and you see something like this and it's like their poor parents never even got the chance to see them grow up and graduate high school and maybe get married and have a child, you know. And we have to sometimes look at our own circumstances through that lens and say, you know what, yes, my sister was 47, but she got the chance to grow up and graduate high school and get a job and celebrate many Christmases with our family, and this young girl here never got that chance. So in a way, we're blessed that we got to spend that much time with her. So I have to look at it that way. You know, if we don't, we'll just drive ourselves crazy. That's always sad to see. We're headed out of the West Elfers Cemetery. We're gonna hit one more and combine the two into this one video. So now we're gonna be headed over to the Heartwood Preserve Cemetery, and I'll see you there. We're here at Heartwood Preserve. I think I called it Hartford, but it's Heartwood Preserve in Newport Richey. It is a nature preserve and cemetery, conservation cemetery. So let's go in and see what we can see. Well, it's definitely a preserve, a park, cemetery grounds. This doesn't look like any cemetery grounds I've ever seen, so this should be interesting. We're gonna take a walk and see if we can find a childhood friend of mine and leave this rose at his site, but I mean, as I don't see any headstones or anything, so this is like really different. But if it is a cemetery, wow, look, there's a little trail here. This is the wiregrass trail. Okay, I see some mounds that look like perhaps could be burials. They're mounds. Oh my goodness. Look at, there's a mound right here. Imagine. This is wild. This is it. This isn't his burial, but look, someone's buried here under this mound. This is a James Van Horn, May 16th, 1932 to October 24th, 2021. Best dad ever, it says. Huh. Is this interesting? Wow. Well, we have a mission. We've got to find Scott Huntley. He is the brother of my friend Daniel Huntley, and he's laid to rest out here somewhere. I don't know how big the grounds are or where he is exactly out here, but if I have trouble finding him, I'll just text my friend Daniel and see if he knows anything about which trail he's buried next to. But this is literally a nature park where you can be buried. And these mounds here that you see are burials. The wildest thing I've ever seen. But the grounds are gorgeous because it's a state park, you know? So, wow. Look at this beautiful trail. Like, this is the most interesting thing I've ever seen. But it's cool. I don't know. Really cool. How peaceful is this? It's so quiet. There's nobody here. It's just us and one other guy over here that I saw. So, but it's kind of, getting to the burials is kind of, you know, it's all terrain out here. So definitely wear boots or something. This is one Donald K. Veerling, MD, January 19th, 1935 to March 23rd, 2020. These are newer burials, so I may be in the right area. This is too wild. I've been doing cemeteries for almost 2 years now, going to all these different cemeteries, and I've never seen anything like this. My friend Daniel was saying, you know, they buried him here because it was more reasonable. But the grounds are just beautiful. I mean, it's a park, you know? So, looks like recently there might have been a fire here. There's some scorched earth. You see this? The tops of these plants and that tree right there. There's a tree laying down that's black, soot black, down over here. So there might have, looks like there might have been a bit of a brush fire. If I see a snake, I mean, I'm gonna lose my mind. I might die myself. This is something. Here we have a Ted Abbott laid to rest, born 1940, passed in 2020. And look, here's this black tree. Looks like there was a fire here. Wild. Here's another mound. Definitely wear boots, maybe even pants. I'm wearing a skirt today. It was not a good day to wear a skirt. I'm usually always in pants, but this is interesting. Here's another mound. This is one Janine Talley, October 26, 1937 to November 18th, 2022. There's an office up there, but they're closed today, so I can't ask where Scott might be. And there's a lot of burial ground here. Just they're mounds, burial mounds.
Yeah, walk to the jungle.
Yeah, it's welcome to the jungle. It's a jungle out here. I don't know. This is really interesting and unique. In my opinion, very special. but according to Daniel, also reasonable to be buried here. So Alvaro Cruz Chavez, 7/24/1979 to March 12th, 2023. These are all new burials too, newer over here, so I might have better luck running into Scott over this way. Adele Hassan, Elizabeth, I can't see the rest of it, it's covered in pine needles. An engineer, beloved husband and father. There's several mounds over this way. Did you check these?
What?
Did you check these?
Yeah.
Yeah. You think? It's hard to it's hard to know where you start and finish here. I don't see him here. My husband and my friend Winterbauer are usually really great at finding who I'm looking for. This one's not even a mound, or maybe the mound has eroded into the earth, I guess, or dissolved into the earth, probably would be the best way to put it. Parents buried at Bushnell Cemetery. This is a Patricia K. Golden. Oh, her parents are buried at Bushnell. And she's here. Wow. What are these? I wonder if this is to mark a burial. That's something. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. At the same time, it's just so interesting. I didn't know there was anything like this. Did you? Have y'all heard of this? Burial at a preserve? And has fresh flowers. Huh. I have a feeling this could be Scott. He recently died in the last couple months. There are flowers here. I'm not sure though. I bought him a beautiful flower. Isn't that beautiful? But, let's see this. The sun has come out and it is hot, my friends. I couldn't get any answers from my friend Daniel about his brother, but he doesn't believe that his brother's site has been marked yet. So I saw an unmarked grave up here that's pretty fresh, the one that had some flowers still left on it, and it wasn't that long ago that Scott passed away. So I'm gonna leave this beautiful rose on that gravesite, and whether it's him or not, it's at least in memory of him. It could be him, but it may be maybe a stranger for all I know. But the grounds are, like I said, it's all terrain here. Make sure you're wearing boots if you want to really dig in and look at the names on all of these mounds. You have to walk through the brush, you know? You got to walk through all of this. So it would be hard to find anyone you're looking for unless you know for certain which section they're buried in. I just thought, since we're out here, we'll come check it out, see if we can find him. But it's literally going to be a needle in a haystack. If you are coming out here, you want to find somebody that you know is laid to rest here, you're going to want to get the section that they're buried in so that you know basically which area to look. But unfortunately, the office isn't even open today, so we can't even go and ask anyone. But that's just how it is sometimes when you're looking for specific people in any cemetery. You know, there could be hundreds and thousands of burials. You gotta kind of know where you're going. But this was a really cool cemetery. Like I said, I've never seen anything like this, and just for the sake of being here and being able to see this style of burial, I think it was pretty amazing and educational. So kind of cool, and I think it's beautiful. Like it's not your typical burial, but this is a gorgeous park. It's very well maintained, and even though it's a mound and it doesn't look like much, I mean, if you love nature, you might want to consider this style of burial, because this is right out in nature, you know. Butterflies all around, maybe some beautiful deer or something walking through here from time to time, I don't know, but it really was unique and special, and I'm glad I got the chance to come out and see this today. I made my way back to this particular site. This is an unmarked, pretty fresh burial here. I believe it could be Scott, but I'm not 100% sure. I purchased this rose to leave for Scott. Daniel told me that he doesn't believe his grave is marked yet. So if this isn't Scott Huntley, I'm leaving this rose in honor of Scott Huntley for whoever's here who has departed. And if it is Scott Huntley, God rest your soul. Scott, I believe, was 47 when he passed. He lived hard. He lived fast. And he had an illness, you know. He was an addict and fell on hard times a lot. And his soul is finally at peace. And somewhere where he doesn't have to worry about addiction or drugs or anything like that. So if this is not Scott Huntley's place of rest, like I said, I leave this rose in honor of him for whoever rests here. We're here in Tarpon Springs at Orr Creole Smokehouse. I'm gonna go in and get a bite to eat. Thank you so much for joining me again today. I hope you loved today's episode. What was the most profound thing about today was that visiting that Heartwood Preserve cemetery was unlike anything I've ever seen. Upon doing some research, I did find out that this is a way that if you are opposed to being buried because it's taking up space, or you think it's not good for the environment, this is a way you can be buried. It's actually even more reasonable than a traditional burial at a cemetery, because in a traditional burial you are placed into a casket, which is then placed into a concrete vault, which is laid 6 feet under into the cemetery grounds. Well, the thing is 150 years later, even your bones disintegrate into dust. You eventually become dust. There is no human remains. The ancient Egyptians had embalming down to a science in such a way that your body would actually be mummified. And there are several instances in history, throughout history, where the body would be mummified just due to the elements being cohesive with the process of deterioration. So if the climate was just right, the grounds in which you ended up in were just right, you would end up mummified. But in regular circumstances, 150 years later, you become dust anyway. So this is a great alternative for people who don't want to go that route. They want to become one with the earth again. As I was reading about the preserve, what they do is they do no embalming process whatsoever. And you're placed either into a biodegradable casket or a cloth material that's biodegradable as well. Basically, your body disintegrates and becomes part of the earth, which I think is quite beautiful. I mean, there were engineers, there were medical doctors buried there. You know, it's not just for people that don't have a lot of money. It's for just people that valued nature and didn't want to take up space for their body to become dust one day anyway, or, you know, spend all that money on a casket and then the vault is separate, I'm sure. Like I've said in previous videos, it costs more for you to die than it does to live sometimes. They even have cremain burials there. People that just wanted their cremains placed into the ground there. And those cremains are placed in a biodegradable sack of sorts and put into the ground as well, with their own name plaque and all of that. So it was really interesting, because when you look upon it and you arrive there, you don't see anything. There's no headstones, nothing. It looks like a national park or something. There's trails. You don't at first see the burials at all. And then as soon as you start walking down one of the paths, you see these big mounds. And that's where the burials are. And they're not all mounds. Some of them have eroded down into the ground. And I imagine over time, that's what happens. Like, they erode into the ground and they become one with the earth, which I think was pretty incredible and probably the most unique cemetery I've been to thus far. But like I said, I hope you enjoyed it. It was really awesome. And that does it for today's episode. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share on your way out, and I'll see you next time.